I want to tell you, first of all, how much I appreciate the opportunity to come and tell you a little bit about the work in Guyana, South America. Dave and I realized that we're getting older, and we need to get some younger folks involved. We've had a lot of young folks over the years who have gone down and helped us. At times we would have sometimes 20 to 25 people in a group going down when we first got the congregation in Guyana started. This is when we would have Vacation Bible School and have 300 or 400 kids coming out to Vacation Bible School, and we still have that many, but most of the work's being done by the local brethren there now, which that was our intended purpose to begin with. So it's really been great. It's been a great opportunity to go somewhere where people are really receptive to the Word of God. And when you have Bible studies in homes, we started doing Bible studies in homes a couple years ago, instead of having a gospel meeting at the church building, because gasoline was so expensive that it was hard for people to pay for a taxi to bring them to the church building, 4 or 5 nights through the week. So we have home Bible studies going on at 4 different locations. And that way we have meetings in the downstairs, which is ground level, in these homes, and the neighbors come in, and it's nothing for us to have 140 to 150 people come out to those Bible studies at night. So that's really been working well for us, and I understand that there's some here that's thinking about going. I want to really encourage you to do that. You'll never be the same after going one time, and we hope that you realize the benefit that you're bringing to those people there. And I always feel like I've been benefited more by them than they have been by me because of their great attitude and spirit. Just to give you an idea of where we leave from Columbus, and we get down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then from Charlotte we go south across the Gulf of Mexico down to the little island of Aruba. This is the first time we went to Aruba, and the reason for that is the airfare is cheaper. Anybody that knows Dave Newberry knows that we try to go for the cheapest rate we can find, and this was the cheapest route for us. So we went down to Aruba, which is in the Caribbean Sea right off the tip of Venezuela, and then from Aruba we fly on over the Caribbean down to Georgetown, Guyana. Now, Guyana is considered a Caribbean country, and it's the only Caribbean country that's not an island. Now, I don't know why that is, but that's true. Guyana is considered to be a country in the Caribbean. And then from Georgetown, we drive down to a town called Linden. It's a bauxite mining town, and here's where we get a lot of our supplies. We load up food and stuff for the whole group for about 2 weeks, and then we head down the trail from Linden to Ituni, and then from Ituni to Kukwane, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. This last trip we took another venture over into Suriname, and Suriname is a Dutch-oriented country, and they speak Dutch there. A lot of people know English, but they speak Dutch there. And so we drove 300 miles from Georgetown to New Amsterdam over into Suriname, and that was an interesting trip there. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. This is my nephew, Stefan. He went with us this time. First time out of the United States, and he really had a good experience. Here we are at a restaurant in Georgetown. We hit one restaurant when we're coming in, and then we hit a restaurant when we're going out. The rest of the time we prepare our own food or have food prepared for us by some of the ladies down there. And I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the food. where that first area is, that's squid. I'd never had squid before. It's pretty tasty, along with everything else on the plate. But there is some chicken, and chicken, they even have chicken pizza down there. If you've ever, very seldom do you have pepperoni, actual pepperoni. It's chicken pepperoni. Everything is chicken oriented down there. And then there's prawns or shrimp. That long green thing there, that's not a green bean, that's what they call bora. And they raise it on vines. It looks like a bean vine, but it's long, about that long, and it's about big around as a pencil, and it's green. And it tastes okay if you got enough spices and stuff to spike it up a little bit. And then, let's see, the next year is Dave Newberry's daughter, Christy, and the preacher's wife. They are packing things there in Georgetown, getting ready to go down to Guyana, down the trail. Now, they do have in Georgetown pretty fancy places, not very many. This is the only shopping mall that I know of in the whole country. It's in Georgetown. And you can tell there's not very many people there. And one reason for that is it's too expensive. Most of the common people can't afford to shop there. But they do have places to shop, to get souvenirs and things, and Christy's got a hold of a little stuffed caiman there, a little alligator. This is Donette Thomas and her daughter, Deborah, and her son, Isaiah. Isaiah Thomas. Some of you may get that name, may ring a bell. But Isaiah and Deborah, and this is Donette's brother standing there with them. We met them in Georgetown. Now, one thing that we were able to do this time, we don't get to do very often, is take in a sporting event in Georgetown. And it was a big deal because the Guyana Amazon Warriors were playing cricket with the red iron. And I'd never seen a cricket match, and I probably won't see another one for a long time. It's hard to understand. I had to have somebody telling me what it was all about. But we took that in and took Brother Norbert and his family in, and they were just thrilled to be there in the cricket match. On the way down to Kewaunee, we stopped at Linden and spent the night. And this is a brother and sister in Christ house here, and they put us up overnight in the, it's not the basement, it's just the ground floor. Most people have the ground floor and then the upper floor. And they had the mosquito nets and everything, and I always just spray myself down with mosquito repellent, because those mosquito nets, just, if you got a fan going, you don't get any air. They just disperse the air and you don't get any. And it's real hot. So I just put that out there to show my nephew what the mosquito net was, what it looked like. And they provided breakfast for us on the way down. And Stefan come across this little puppy. They called him Bully, I don't know why, but he was attached to that puppy. Now, this is the trail from Linden going down to Kewaunee. First time I'd ever seen all this stuff along the road, and then you see that blue tarpaulin there. A guy put all this stuff in the trees because at night it reflects the light, and he doesn't want to get run over. You see how close he is to the edge of the trail. He sleeps under that tent. He does work back out in the bush, and then he comes out there to catch a ride going into town and stuff. And this is right off the trail. I didn't put a whole lot of trail pictures on this time, but this is the trail. In years past, we have had to get out and push in a four-wheel drive minivan to get back and forth there. It's not quite as bad. This was there were maybe 2 or 3 other places like this on the trail, but it's mostly sand. There's no gravel, hardly at all. It's all sand, and when it rains, the bottom drops out. But it's not too bad. We came across some monkeys this time, and I don't know how I did this, but I actually caught this monkey with all 4 feet off the ground when he was running across in front of us. Stefan was trying to sleep on the trail. I never could. He tried. But when we got to Kukwana, he said, you know, I got a sore spot here on my head. I got a sore spot here. And when you're bouncing around, hitting the potholes and stuff, and hitting the window, that's why I don't try to sleep on the trail. And then when we get to Kukwana, we have to cross the Berbice River on a ferry. And believe it or not, this ferry is powered by a little outboard motorboat, the kind you would fish in, with maybe a 10 or 15 horsepower outboard motor. And it gets that whole big ferry across the river. And this is Dave and his daughter and granddaughter, and Sister Chris, one of our cooks who goes with us and cooks for us. And this is Stefan. Now that little guy I've got a picture of, my wife teaches school, and she wanted to know if I'd take this guy with me, and every chance I'd get a picture with him. We call him Flat Stanley. Flat Stanley goes to Guyana. And so we would put pictures of Flat Stanley on the bulletin board at school, and all the kids would see where he's been and what he's done in the summer. Another picture, usually you can get one vehicle on that ferry to go across. This is the inside of the church building. Brother Dave Newberry and my nephew and Deborah and Christy's daughter. This is the inside of the house, and Jeff, he probably hasn't seen the remodeling we've done. I don't know if Jeff's been in our house or not. Dave and a couple other guys were able to purchase a house before we had to get a guest house there, and it wasn't very good. Roaches about this big, and spiders, and all kinds of things like that. But we go in and we do spray the insect spray in our house, and it's never as bad as the old guest houses that we had to have. This is the kitchen part. We have two big water tanks that are filled by city water. Now, city water there is run by the mining industry, and they pump water into a big reservoir up on the hill, and then they let it go gravity flow down into town. Well, we wasn't getting any water, and we thought maybe our tanks were plugged up. Wouldn't be the first time, because there's stuff that comes out of that water you wouldn't believe, long green stuff. I don't know what it is, but we don't drink that water without our own filtration system. We were without water for 3 days, and we finally figured out why. There wasn't enough pressure up on the hill to get us water, so we had to get downtown where there was more pressure and wash dishes in the back of the preacher's house. And we found out where the problem was. There was a leak there in the top of the line, and then we had a guy come and help us hook a pump up outside to get water pumped up into our tanks. And that was on Sunday afternoon. We'd been there since Friday, Saturday, Sunday, hadn't done any laundry. So we were glad that he came on Sunday afternoon and hooked up this pump for us. And it really did the job. It filled it would fill one tank in about 2.5, 3 hours. Now, we do have our own water filtration system, and that's a little 0.01 micron filter that I'm holding there, that black thing, and I'm back flushing it to clean it out. Once I back flush it, then I hook it up to that Lowe's bucket there and that tubing and turn it on, and it'll run a drip about the size of a pencil lead and fill up a 5-gallon container in about 4 or 5 hours. So we get our drinking water from that, and nobody's ever gotten sick. Matter of fact, we contacted Healing Hands International out of Nashville, and we bought those water filters and gave one to every family, the Lord's church there. We also supplied the school with a water filter. They were drinking the water, that green stuff and everything in it. And people were getting typhoid. it wasn't unusual for a lot of members to be sick with typhoid from drinking that water. So we also got water filters for the hospital. The hospital didn't have clean drinking water. And I told Dave, if I ever get sick there, don't take me to the hospital, just send me on back home, because I don't want to go to the hospital there. When you go to the hospital there, you have to provide your own food. They don't feed you. You have to do your own laundry. You have to change your own bed. If you don't have family to take care of you there, they give you the mess, and that's about it. So we were able to help out considerably there. We even took a water filter for the high school, the elementary school, and the police station. So all of them are getting good, clean water now from those water filters. This February, we're going to introduce sustainable agriculture. People there, you don't see very many gardens. And if something happens on the trail, it becomes impassable, then in 3 days, Kequaney's without food. They don't have any fresh vegetables, they don't have any rice, they don't have any chicken. So we thought it would be a great thing to go down and teach them how to raise their own food. And Brother Carl Berkeybill from Healing Hands International is going to go down in February and help them start a garden plot. And we're really excited about that. This garden plot will be right behind the church building, and we've got plenty of room there to do that. And you might say, well, how in the world can they raise anything on white sand? I showed Brother Carl that picture, and he said, I've grown things on worse. He said, all we got to get is a lot of green material for compost, put some cow droppings or sheep droppings or chicken droppings, whatever we can find. And there's plenty of that on the streets in Kequaney. You can go out and find where cows have been. Just they come through the churchyard sometimes if the gate's not closed. So I think that's going to work out good for us. Brother Mark Lessa, he just became a Christian 2 years ago. And he's already started. This is in his backyard at his house, and he's got some raised container gardening going on there. And that green stuff there is bok choy. It's a green that is a good vegetable that he's learned how to raise. And he's really excited about Brother Carl coming down and teaching him how to do things. He has a chicken house. There's about 100 chickens in that little thing there. And I don't know how they stand the heat. You look in there and their mouth is open and their tongue's going back and forth. Just so hot there. But he can't let them out because of the animals and because people just take them. Anything that's wandering around the street is free game to anybody who wants it. So he can't turn them loose. He has to keep them penned up. This is the inside of the church building there. That's a lot has been done. You know those pews there, sometimes we think, well, if we only had padding on our pews. They did put pads on those pews, but those pews were cut out with a chainsaw. These little guys get on top of a big log about that big around, and they get that chainsaw and they make a mark all the way down through, and then they go back up, and then they just come down until they slab a board off. And that's their chainsaw. That's their sawmill, how they make those. And then that wood is so hard when you try to drive a nail in it. I couldn't hold my mouth right. I had to drill each, pre-drill it and drive nails in that. I helped them build those pews. There's Brother Dave. Our theme this year was, do you know my Jesus? Do you really know him? And we've really had some good lessons and great response from these meetings. This is Brother Norbert Thomas, the preacher there, leading singing. He does a tremendous job preaching and singing. Here are some of the men taking an active part in the worship service on Sunday morning. Brother Frederick in the middle there reading scripture. Isaiah, the preacher's son, on his left. Brother Mark on his right. And the other two young men really doing a great job taking part. We even got my nephew Stefan to lead a few songs, and that was a great experience for him. This is a brother who comes down from Georgetown and helps us out, and he does a great job leading singing. We had a men's class this time and a ladies class, and you can see we had about 8 men there. On different days we might have a few more or less than that, but all doing real well. We're teaching leadership and what it means to be a good father. They need good encouragement along those lines. Here's the ladies class. Always more ladies than men. You ever notice that? Always more ladies than men. The same is true down there. And Sister Christy was talking to them about raising, disciplining, encouraging children. Something that they really look forward to and enjoy. Here's Sister Arlene, and she's teaching her class on Sunday morning. All those boys, just a couple girls in that class. And this is Sister Christy teaching her Sunday morning Bible class. We take down pillowcase dresses every now and then. I don't know if you've ever seen those. The ladies take a pillowcase, cut out holes for the arms and the head, and then put frilly things around it and sew it together. And those kids down there just really love it. And they're fairly easy to transport. They don't weigh that much, and the kids really enjoy them. Dave came across some t-shirts at Ollie's for, I think, like it's $2.50 each. And besides being good quality t-shirts, they had good religious messages on them, following Jesus and fishing along the way. This is Brother Frederick's house, and you see the bottom part there. That's where he holds the Bible study at his house, in the bottom part there, right alongside the Berbice River. And he has chickens. He raises chickens, and so he's going to be real interested in what Brother Carl has to say about sustainable gardening, because he can use what those chickens leave behind and raise some good food with it. Do you see anything particular unusual up that tree? Well, there's a boy up there, and he's picking some fruit out of that tree, and that's a cashew tree. Now, not the cashew nuts that we eat, but they look more like apples. There's one there. And this is Christy sharing a cashew with Sister Oline. Sister Oline can't talk, so she has to sign. And 2 years ago, we took down enough fishing poles, spinning reels, for each family to have one, because they live right next to the river. And Sister Oline came up to me and she said, "Where's mine? Where's my fishing pole?" And I said, "I got you one. Don't worry, I got you one." So I took it and gave it to her, and then the next day when I saw her, I asked her, I said, "You been fishing?" She said, "Yes." I said, "How many did you catch?" She said, 5. So they were real tickled to get those fishing reels that we took down a couple years ago. This is Brother John's house, and we meet under his house for a Bible study on the waterfront. This is Brother Dave teaching a class at Sister Oline's house in one of our Bible studies. And this is Brother Mikey Lindy. He's one of the preachers that is supported by the Lower Pawpaw and Waverly Church of Christ, where Brother Bob Long and Brother Tom Tucker preach. And he does a great job. He's a good song leader. He knows them all by heart. He doesn't even have to open a songbook. He can just lead them and does a great job. We had some baptisms. This is Denise Duncan. She was baptized into Christ. And her son Alvin and Brandon were also baptized, and this is her mother there standing next to her. She was very sick and was going to have to go to New Amsterdam to the hospital. So we were very happy to be able to teach them before they had to leave. And here they are being baptized. You see that this is in the Berbice River, and it's only about knee deep. You don't want to get out in the deep water during the day, because that's where the cool water is, and that's where the piranha are. So you do it in the shallow water where it's warm. And what we have them do, we have them just get down on their knees, and then Brother Norbert tilts them forward, and they come back up, and and they're able to be baptized that way. This young lady's Cleopatra Britton. She was also baptized into Christ this time, and her sister Sophia Britton. And then we studied with a man named Brian Chun Lee. He and his wife Violet have a little business just right there by the church building, and they sell fruits and vegetables and things that they bring in from Linden. And he'd always wanted to study, but he and his wife hadn't been married yet. And that's a common problem there. There are some that have been living together for 10, 15 years, have had children and have got grandchildren, but they never had a piece of paper from the government because the government makes it so difficult for them to get married. We had one brother who was, Brother Herman Andrews, who was a justice of the peace. And whenever he would go to Kewanee, he would have all kinds of weddings because a lot of people don't have enough money to make the trip all the way to Georgetown, which is about 120 miles. And then they have to wait around in town for 3 or 4 days to get their paperwork done. So that means they have to stay somewhere and eat somewhere. And a lot of people just don't do it. And so we've had a lot of weddings when Brother Herman was there. And Brian and Violet got married, and he said, now I want to study the gospel because we got our marriage taken care of. And as Dave was studying with him there with Brother Norbert, he decided to obey the gospel. They built a concrete baptistry there at the church building, and that's a lot handier than having to go to the river to do the baptizing. They can fill that up and drain it, and it has really worked out well. I don't know why Dave took a picture of me doing this. He said, I just want people to know that you do study while you're there to get your lessons together. I never knew how difficult it would be to study when it's 90 to 100 degrees. You're sitting there, see that fan? We got fans in every room. And here I am sitting there and sweat's dropping off my forehead onto my papers, onto my Bible. And I don't have that problem at Lubeck. I've got air conditioning. I can go in and sit down and I can study and read. And when I write something down, it doesn't smear on the paper. I really appreciate the work that Brother Norbert puts in, getting his sermons together and writing them out. Usually he does it early of a morning or late after dark at night because it's so hot during the day. These two young people, Raylando Clinkett and Jennifer, his sister, are the children of the two people that we have staying in the house. If we didn't have somebody staying in our house down there, there wouldn't be anything left. People just, they call it cannibalizing it. If somebody needed a piece of tin, they just come and take it off the roof. If somebody needed some wiring, they just get out and pull it out. So we have to have somebody staying there to keep the property up, and we give them so much a month to do that, and we've grown very fond of these two little ones here. And then here's the kids. Somebody asked me one time, well, do you really think it's wise to take teenagers down there? What can teenagers do? Believe me, there are teenagers down there that need to have some young people from the States to come down and be an encouragement to them. I can teach them and I can show them where things are in the Bible, but when they see our young people living it and enjoying their company, there's more that can be taught with their example than they would understand from just a preacher preaching it. So that's why we encourage our young people to go. Here's the kitchen. Now, we all have duties to do, and those duties include KP duty, and that's every day. We only had Stefan and Christy Newberry's daughter were the only two young people this time, so they had KP every day. And Stefan comes to me about Wednesday or Thursday and he said, Uncle Steve, I don't understand why I got KP every day. And I said, well, Stefan, if you wouldn't do it, who would? Well, you and Brother Dave hadn't had any KP duty. And I said, okay, tomorrow you go out and do the Bible studies that we do. And you get yourself ready and teach the lesson at the Bible study in the people's homes, beside everything else that we got to do. And I'll do KP duty for you one day. He said, nope, that's it. And he never said another word. He said, I understand. I said, what you need to understand is that when you're doing KP duty, that's part of the work. Somebody has to do that. And if Dave and I have to do that, then somebody's not going to be taught, and a Bible study is not going to be had. So the work that you're doing here is the benefit for the whole group, and everybody has an impact in that work. And I was really proud of them. There wasn't a whole lot of complaining the whole time, and we're so thankful. We did get to take a ride on the boat in the river, going back and forth to houses and doing our work, and the kids really enjoyed that, until I told them that there were piranha down there, get their hands out of the water. But here, this is just a routine scene along the river, a mother and her children going across the river in a boat that's handmade, by the way, out of wood. Here's my nephew and a little girl that took to him. This is up at the bush pool, Jeff. If you've ever been to the bush pool, they've put white sand there and put those little buildings around, and really made it nice. It's good to go there through the day, but not on the weekend. It gets to be a wild place on the weekend, so we don't even bother going there on the weekend. We have laundry to do. Everybody does their own laundry, and there's an automatic dryer right outside. You just hang it up and let the sun dry it. Believe it or not, in about 3 hours, everything's dry from the hot sun in the afternoon. 2 years ago, Dave bought a piece of plywood and had a couple brethren paint it, and we made a ping pong table. Now, it's not regulation size, it's 4x8 sheet, but they really enjoy playing ping pong on the back porch there of the church building. And even the adults get into it. Brother Mark Lessa, he really likes to play ping pong. And he doesn't like to lose, but he's a gracious loser, but you could tell. Wait till next time, I'll get you next time. Here we are late at night before we turn in and go to bed. Sister Andrews helped us enjoy a new drink. It's kind of like hot chocolate. It's called Milo. And when you boil it in water, it's kind of like, it looks like coffee. You boil it in water and stir it up and put hot milk in there and a little bit of brown sugar cane sugar. And you would think with that sugar in there and everything, keep you up at night, but it just relaxes you, and you're ready to turn the lights out and go to sleep. And we had our Milo party every night before we went to bed. Now, Dave had the big idea. We had Brother Norbert here a couple years ago, and he played the game cornhole. I don't know if y'all play cornhole or not. He said it sure would be nice if we made him a set of cornhole games. And so it was my job to do the cornhole games. And what I wasn't figuring on was the plywood being so hard. It's harder than any plywood I've ever dealt with. I should have bought a jigsaw, but I got a keyhole saw. And I cut those circles out with a keyhole saw. It took me best part of the morning to cut out 2 of them. And then Brother Junior Clankett got a circular saw, and we cut out the frames. And didn't have a square, so I used a piece of glass, whatever we could find, and we finally came up with those cornhole games. And we painted them, striped them, and that's a finished project. We enjoyed playing, Dave and I, and if you want to know who won that game, ask Dave. He'll reluctantly tell you. And then the kids really enjoyed playing that. So they don't have much by way of things like that down there. The playgrounds that they used to have, Reynolds Aluminum used to mine the bauxite there. And the Guyanese government took it over, ran Reynolds off, said this is now property of the Guyana government. And they had tennis courts, they had all kinds of things, playgrounds for the kids, swing sets, and now they're all, the chains have been taken off the swings, nothing there but the posts in the ground. The kids don't have much to play with. So we try to do something like that every now and then to encourage the kids. I even put a basketball hoop up at the house for the young men to play some basketball. And they got a few guys from down the street to come up and play. And that's a good way to get them to see how Christians behave and invite them to services. We took one day just to take a break, and this is another little place in Kequanee, right beside of the creek, and people go there to swim and stuff, and we just enjoyed sitting there and watching the kids play in the water. I found a piece of wood that I made a cane out of and was working on it while the kids were playing in the water. There's Isaiah and my nephew, Stefan. Now there's something in the tree there. There's all kinds of lizards down there. Can you see it? That's an iguana. And look how long the tail is. That tail is clear down here. That's a long tail. But they barbecue those. They eat them. And when they see one, they'll do anything they can to get them. One guy caught one in the tree behind the house one time, and he finally killed it, but his hands were all tore up where that thing scratched him trying to get away. But I just took a picture of that. Didn't want to get too close, but that's an iguana. Here they're making some medicine they call crab oil. And this is done under the house there in Lamp Island. One of Brother Mikey's relatives is making, and that's Brother Mikey and his two children. This is Stefan playing with Raylondo Clinkett in the yard there at the church building. And this is Isaiah. The girls enjoyed whatever they do, that clapping stuff. They really got into that. And this little girl enjoyed the little puppy. Now, God did bring in an anaconda while we were there. First time I'd seen one, and he brought it in. There are anacondas there, but mostly they're out in the marsh, out away from people. But this is a little one, by the way. It's only about 8 foot long. But there's Junior. It was pretty well dead. That's why they're holding it, because that would have been stronger than both of them. Mikey was out fishing one day and caught 2 little fish they called fry. They were mullet, and he was getting ready to have lunch. There's the 2 during the KP duty. This is lunch at the house. When we have lunch, we invite everybody on the team to come and have lunch with us. It's always a good time of fellowship. Behind Sister Arlene's house, the government's building a new elementary school. And it's a 2-story building, and it's really big. I hope they finish it, because a lot of stuff that they start don't get finished. But if they finish that, that'll really be a wonderful thing for Kequanee. The kids are just one reason I go back. Those little brown eyes looking at you and the smiles on their faces. They don't have much, but they seem to be happy. And that is really something. This brother Ivan, he turned 65. And he wanted me to take a picture of him. And this is all taken at Brother Frederick's house at an evening Bible study after it was over. This is Brother Ivan and his sister. Brother Ivan lost his wife a couple years ago. She and her little son were trying to cross the river at night in a boat. And she got too close behind a big old barge that was coming up the river. And the wake behind the barge caught them and capsized the boat. And somehow the baby was saved, but she wasn't. And she drowned there at Kequanee a couple years ago. Just pictures of people there at the Bible study, and look at those faces of those kids. They enjoy singing Bible songs. It's just great to work with them. And this is Brother McDonald and his wife. He's a preacher at Ituni, and they come down each time we're there, and they help us out. We did take a walk through the rainforest, and that's always fun. everybody that goes say, when we go into the rainforest? Well, it's just out the back door. You just go out and start walking and you're there. Christy wanted to try to swing on a grapevine. And good to have Brother Mac with us because he's what they call a bushman. He knows what's in the forest, and he says, stay away from that spider web there. We got up close enough where we could look, and there's a bunch of tiny little spiders about the size of your thumb all over that thing. He said, you don't want to get in that. Just stay away from there. He didn't have to tell me twice. Then we walked across some old bridging that they had there in the rainforest, and I didn't know if it was safe or not, but Brother Mac walked across and said, come on, it'll hold you up. So we walked across, all of us. It was pretty interesting. Now there's something up ahead there that we were trying to get a picture of, but he was running too fast. And it's right there around that yellow circle, but we get a close-up on him, and it's a big old, they call them Sally Panthers. They're a little smaller than a Kimono dragon, but they're a pretty good sized lizard. But they run so fast, you never get anywhere close to them. Well, we did get a close-up of him. Brother Mac and I are sitting there at the house talking, and he said, brother, why is it that it's always easy to get the women to take part and do things at church, but it's hard for me to get the men to do anything? And I said, brother, welcome to the 20th century. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get men to do things for the Lord. And he said, well, what can I do about it? And I said, get their wives to encourage them. The best way to get to a man's heart is through his wife. And her telling how much she needs him to take leadership in the church. He said if he wanted a song leader, he could ask any one of the women to do it, and they'd do it. If he asked for one to lead a prayer, they would do it. If he asked them to preach, they would do it. But he said, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And I said, amen, brother. That's right. We got to get these men involved. And you know, just sitting there, how often do you have a conversation like that with anybody today? Just sitting there, me whittling on my cane, my stick, and here we are talking about how to address problems in the church. Now, we always have the last breakfast on the Monday morning before we leave, and Dave's fixing French toast there, and I was doing the scrambled eggs and the bacon, and we feed everybody, and we had a pretty good group there. The girl named Lakeisha, she's Mikey Lindy's sister, and she was baptized on this last trip, and we were so thankful for her. There's just some more of all that were helping out during the time that we were there. The lady standing next to me is Sister Andrews. Her husband died a couple years ago, and he was a professional boxer for the country of Guyana. He was also one of the best baritone singers I've ever heard. He did that professionally for many years, but he was also a tremendous gospel preacher, and we really miss him. Here's another picture of the group. Here we are on a ferry going over into Paramaribo, Suriname, and that water is the way it is all year round. It's not because they just had a rain. It's the tannic acid in the rainforest that leaches out into the water, and all the water down. You don't see any clear water unless it's coming up out of a spring somewhere. This is pictures of Suriname. And it's a beautiful country. No trash along the road. Guyana has trash everywhere. But Suriname is a very clean and beautiful country. This boy, he's caught fish in a drainage ditch along the road. In Guyana, I wouldn't eat anything that came out of the ditch along the road. But the ditches along the road are clean, and you see people fishing in them all the time. Smoked fish, the way they preserve fish there. We went to the church at Paramaribo. They were having some problems, and they thought if they had some of us speak to them about how to work out church problems, it might be a benefit to them, and we did the best we could with that situation. We pray that they've been able to overcome their difficulties. They've got a great presence there if they can just overcome the difficulties they're having amongst themselves. This is a picture of the inside of the building. This is a place that we stayed. It cost us a lot less to stay in an apartment than it would have the hotel. We stayed 2 nights in that apartment house, and we had a big room and a kitchen and everything for half of what it would cost in a hotel. You know, Dave, he finds the cheapest place to stay, but it was nice accommodations. There in Paramaribo, you can see the Dutch influence, Martin Luther Kirk, Martin Luther Church, Lutheran Church, right there in Paramaribo. There's a policeman there. They had police presence everywhere, and I felt a whole lot safer there than I do in Georgetown. A very law-abiding country. This is even a Hindu children's home, and we stopped there to visit some of the children that some of our brethren knew. Believe it or not, there in Suriname is where a lot of the slave trade took place back in the 1800s. And this is a place where they housed slaves at that time. All of those rooms there were occupied by dozens of slaves in each one of those rooms. I even got Stefan to stand behind the door and took his picture because that's what it would have looked like. And it was a dreadful place. You might think, what is that? Is that an oven? Well, it very well could have been, but that's where they kept slaves that weren't behaving. They would march them in the top of that on the top, and then they would feed them food through those holes. And when the temperature would get, you know, there's no trees around there, just behind it, in the heat of the day, it would be unbearably hot in there. And Christy said, let's go in. Dave Newberry's daughter. I said, not me, I wouldn't step foot in there. Well, she got in there and I took her picture looking out the hole. I mean, the way they treated human beings is just unbelievable. They made them do things like making buckets. They had metal breaks there so that they could make buckets and dishes and pans and all kinds of things. This is one of the paintings that was on the inside wall. There we are standing there. That's a picture of the sign of Guyana as we're going back in to get on the airplane and fly to Aruba. Everybody says, boy, wouldn't it be nice to go to Aruba? Well, you can have it as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, that's a nice white beach there. That's really nice on that part of the island. White sand, blue water. But look at the other side, the western side. The western side, nothing but rock. And it looks like Mexico. Cactus, all kinds of cactus there. And you know, they don't have any rain. It doesn't rain in Aruba. That's why everybody likes to go there. It never rains there. Not even hurricanes. They just miss it all. And so how they get drinking water for all those people who come? They have the biggest water filtration plant making salt water into drinking water in the hemisphere there. Here's an aerial view of the island. It seems like it's 7 miles wide and 13 miles long. You can get across the whole thing in a day. We're back up in the clouds going home toward Charlotte. In Charlotte, we had a terrible experience. We started to Charlotte and thunderstorms came up in Charlotte and we circled around and around. And finally, the pilot said, the thunderstorm's not letting up. We're going to have to go to Columbia. We landed at Columbia. Columbia Airport didn't have the facilities we needed for our big airplane. So they couldn't hook us up to electricity. So we sat on that airplane, had no air conditioning, no electricity on that plane. And we're all roasting in there. And we wondered, why won't they let us off? Why can't we go in and sit inside until they get this problem taken care of? Well, finally they did let us go in. And then we found out that the airline crew, the flight crew had already passed their 8 hours. And so they had to fly to Charlotte to get another flight crew to come up to take us back. And so we're there at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and we've already missed our connecting flight. We have to spend the night in the airport in Charlotte, and so that's where we are, there in the airport trying to sleep. Since I was awake and had the camera, I took pictures. Dave found out about 4 o'clock in the morning that there was cots behind this little eating place. We got the cots out and were able to lay down for an hour before our plane left. So that tells you a little bit about the trip, what it's like. It doesn't do justice to how much prayer and work goes into such a trip. And it's all for the spread of the gospel to people who would never hear it otherwise. It's been life-changing for me, because every time that I go down there and people just ask questions, and you can talk real straight to them. I was amazed with Brother Andrews how he would talk to people. There was a young lady that was having family problems, and he was sitting on the porch, and she came up to him and said, "Brother Andrews, how come my husband treats me the way he does?" And he just started talking to her. He said, "What do you do when he brings that paycheck home?" "Well, I go out and get this and I get that." And he said, "You're spending too much. You're just spending too much money." He goes out there and works hard, and then you just go out and spend it on these frivolous things. The problem down there is when they got money, they just spend it, and then it's gone, and then they go back to having nothing. They haven't been taught how to save. And he just sat there and talked with her, and when she left, she kissed him on the cheek, and she said, "Thank you, Brother Andrews. I'm going to try to do better, and I hope he does too." It's just a wonderful experience, and I hope that young people that's thinking about going with us can go. I really appreciate the opportunity. The Apostle Paul, whenever he came back from his missionary journeys, he always gave a report on what he did and the people that were baptized, and not only that, but the difficulties he had. There's difficulties. There's difficulties in traveling. There's difficulties with weather. There's all kinds of difficulties. Everywhere there's a door open for the Lord, Satan tries to shut it. But we have the power of the gospel, and we have the greatest being upon earth. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world, John says. So as we think about that, you want me to offer the invitation? Are you going to? When we think about those things, I think, we can go thousands of miles across the world to convert people, and they need converted. Well, what about the people right next door here? And what about gospel meetings? We talk about gospel meetings and wonder why they're not as well attended as they used to be years ago when people didn't have as much. People down there, when you have a meeting, they come. Sometimes even when it's raining bad. It's because of their desire to please the one that they know is blessing them. So tonight we may have someone here who's not obeyed the gospel, and Jesus has died for the remission of your sins. He died on Calvary's cross that you might be freed from the sins that would cause you to be separated from God eternally. So if you need to respond to the invitation tonight to be baptized into Christ as he instructs in Mark 16, 15, and 16, or if you need to, as a Christian, be restored to faithfulness and enjoy being a Christian. If there's some things that you can take care of privately, that's wonderful. But if you need the encouragement of the church, we ask you to come and make your wishes known as we stand while we sing.